Hello and welcome back. I'm Deirdre and today is day one of no fuss budgeting, and I'm going to take you through the first 4 steps of how to set up your budget so that you can get in control of your money instead of having it just disappear on you and be left at the end of the week or the month with no idea of what happened. Now, while many of you know me as the woman who did the big downsize, and I've talked a lot about downsizing from a large family home to, in my case, apartment, and I've talked a lot about decluttering and cleaning and styling your new home. But long before I did any of this on YouTube, I worked in the corporate world, in finance. And when I first left university, I ended up in corporate strategy and it's a lot of financial planning. And later on, I worked for a major banking corporation as a financial analyst. I would advise you to write a lot of this down, to take note of the steps. I would grab an old school notebook or even just some pieces of paper just to start you off on this process. And later on, buy yourself a notebook, a journal, something. Don't spend any money or don't spend a lot of money, but somewhere you can keep all your financial and budgeting information together. But let's start off with step 1. And like anything, it's all about what is your motivation. Why are you wanting to take control of your money? And I know in some ways it sounds really obvious, but in other ways, if you haven't been doing it carefully for many, many years, then perhaps that's no longer working for you. For all sorts of reasons. Maybe you're thinking of retiring and you'd like to start learning to live on a fixed income. Perhaps you would just like to finally pay off your house mortgage. Maybe you have some debts that you're just sick of having and you just want them out of your life. Maybe you want to save for a fabulous holiday or even for some medical costs that you have coming up. There are all sorts of reasons why people will want to take control of their money and start bossing it around instead of vice versa. So that's step 1, find out your motivation. Step 2 is to find out your current situation and to get the information together that you're going to need to do your budget. So look back over the last couple of months. Now, some people will say look back over the past year or 6 months at least. Now, I think the budget you build now is not going to be set in stone. You're going to make changes as you go along. I just want you to get started. So if you really can only deal with going back 2 or 3 months and looking at your bank statements, looking at perhaps your credit card statements, looking at any receipts or any information you can gather on what you've been spending money on, then look, I'll start with that, and I'm not going to be fussy and say you've got to have 6 months or, God forbid, 12 months of your previous expenses, because if it's too much of a hurdle, you won't do it. And it's much more important that you get some idea of what your expenses are. And then you can work out, knowing how far you've gone back, you can work out roughly how much you've been spending per month. And I'm going to work on a per month basis, even if you are receiving your pay or your fixed payments or whatever, if you're retired, on a weekly or fortnightly basis. Just total it up and treat it like a month as if you're being paid once a month. So then you've got all of that data. That's the raw data that you've got together. It's all the information you need to start sorting it out. Now, I would then go through and total all of these under various categories, and then the categories will be obvious to you as you go through. There's your rent or your mortgage. There's your things like the home utilities like electric and gas, the groceries, car expenses, home maintenance expenses, any form of insurances that you have, your phone, your internet, all of these things. Each one is a category, and just total up underneath each of these in each category, and you'll work out how much you're spending in those approximately at this point per month. Now, the next step is to write down what your income is. You found out what your outgoings are, let's find out what your incomings are. You may have an absolutely set amount that you're paid on a fortnightly or monthly basis. You may be on some fixed payments, or you may work for yourself and it goes up and down a bit, and you're going to have to work out what is an average amount that you will earn that is quite realistic. Perhaps you work on an hourly basis, and as a result, some weeks and months you can earn more, and some weeks and months you'll earn a bit less. You can be on a commission basis, you can be earning bonuses perhaps as you go along. There may be some interest payments if you have some savings, and any side hustles that you may not think about, but say you do a bit of babysitting or something like that and you get paid a little bit. Every little bit counts. Pop it in there and total that up. So you've got once again, a fairly good idea of your average monthly income. And that's, remember, this is just where we're starting. You need to get started in order to get underway, and you have to pick a number somewhere. So try and make it as realistic as possible, but on the other hand, don't fret too much about it at this point. You can make adjustments and changes as you go along. It's your budget. Work it out for you. Right, now I'm going to show you the budget that I use and the system I use. Now, I have an extremely gorgeous Erin Condren Life Planner journal that a friend sent to me. It was an extra that she had, so I, for once, have a really glamorous budget journal. And the first month in it was July, which of course I was away for. I was travelling. So I've in fact done like a sample one in the July month. Right, now as I said, I have this gorgeous Erin Condren Life Planner. This is not necessary. I know lots of people on YouTube use them and they're glorious, and you don't need it. You can use a piece of paper, you can use a school notebook for a couple of dollars from the supermarket. So please don't think you have to have something beautiful to get started with, because you simply don't. Okay, let's go to the place that I start, which is the monthly layout of the calendar. Forgive the shadows, it's that sun. Never complain about the sun, but really, it just had to come out then. So what I do here in the calendar, and you can get one of these, you can print it off from your Google Calendar, you can just print a plain one off. You can print off an Apple Calendar, just an absolutely plain calendar off many sites on the internet. What I do here is that I choose these 5 different categories, and this is where I take note of them. And as you can see, I've just used 5 different coloured markers that I happen to have. So now all of these different categories, they are just the ones that I've chosen to track. My allowance, which is just the amount of payments of things like getting my hair cut, if I wanted to get my nails done. Anything that isn't groceries, isn't strictly household, then that goes into allowance. Groceries is obvious, petrol, gas if you're in America, for your car, eating out, and that means grabbing a coffee with a friend, just keeping an eye on how much I'm spending on that, and anything like entertainment, like if I go to a show or to a movie. On the days that I actually spend the money, I just simply take a note of how much in these 5 categories that I am spending in. Now you might have 4 categories that are your particular ones you want to keep an eye on that blow out a wee bit, or you may have more. That's just approximately, and that way I can just write these in here as I go, how much each one could be. These are just all made up, but you know, it's a good indication of the sorts of things that you would put in here. Now the next thing I do, and I've been doing this forever, but I've also seen it quite a lot recently on YouTube. You can find these, and this is pretty standard, to do a weekly check-in of those particular categories that I've just discussed, so that if you start out with a certain amount, then each week you check how much of that amount you have spent on your groceries or your petrol, and obviously whatever is remaining goes over here into the next week at the beginning. So you know at the beginning of each week how much you're starting with. Now, in some weeks you may have to spend more on certain things, less on others. You may end up going over, but it's more that you keep a track of it than that you stay under budget. Now, staying under budget is great, but especially in the beginning when you're starting out and you're really just trying to get a feel for how much it will actually cost you to live. And if you haven't been doing this before, then seeing it written down in black and white or whatever colour you choose to use, you know, rainbows would be rather nice too. But seeing it written down is a pretty good reality check. So each week you just total up from this page, check off what you add them up, you check them off, you put them in here under the right categories, see what's remaining, and transfer it over here. Now some people actually use cash, and they draw cash out for their groceries, their petrol, for their allowances, eating out, and they keep an eye on it that way. And to be fair, that's a very good way to start out. And over here is the sample budget that I've drawn up for you. This part is exactly what I have done for, I don't want to say how many years. Doesn't mean it was always perfect, it certainly wasn't, and I will talk about that in part 2 and 3 about this when I'm talking about debt and how to start repaying debt. But for now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to find out where's your money coming from, total it up, write it down, and where is it going. And what I do is I divide it up so that I have a funded amount, and I'll talk about that in a minute, your budget, the total of these two, how much is spent each month and how much is left over. And that rolled over funded amount is the amount that you are saving to pay for those bigger items. For example, you go down through here, my electricity is billed on a 3-monthly basis. So say my electricity would be $300 every 3 months, then that's $100 a month that I would have to put into my budget. And I would total it up, so if I'd put in $100 last budget, I will still have $100 in there because it won't have been drawn out. I'll add another $100, I'll have $200 going forward, nothing will have been spent, and $200 will continue on to the next month, and it will be in this column then. And then when I add the next month's budget amount to it, then it will be fully funded and ready for paying the account. And I've always done it this way, and there are very few surprises when you do it this way. Now, my gas is billed monthly, every second month, so I say approximately $60, and so I put $30 in every month. And so 1 month I'll start out with 30 in the funded, add another 30, and that makes the 60, and that's the month I pay it in. The local rates, now some people will pay those quarterly, some people will pay them annually. Rates are taxation that we pay for our local authorities here in Australia. So that could be an amount divided by 12, or you pay it quarterly, and so you divide it by 3 and you'd fund it across in exactly the same way. Home maintenance, now that's a random figure. You might decide, hey, it's going to cost me maybe $2,000 a year to maintain my home. Therefore, 2,000 divided by 12, and that amount goes into your budget and keeps rolling over each month and growing a little until, you find, oh, I have to have a plumber in to fix the guttering, or maybe I need some painting done. And at least you've got a good start on your home maintenance issues when you've got that sitting there. Home and contents insurance, for me, that's an annual thing, so that would be something I would divide by 12 and put a 12th in every month. My phone is monthly, so that just gets paid monthly. There's never anything funded or rolled over. My internet would be the same, paid monthly, so the budget amount is then spent each month. Nothing is ever rolled over. My petrol, I don't roll that over. I know some people do. If you spend a little bit less some months and a bit more in the others, I just roll with that. A little bit of variation, and of course that depends also on the petrol prices, which fluctuate quite a lot. Some months I'm under, most months I'm over a little bit. Unbudgeted for the things that you didn't think of. In my case, this month already, I have purchased the new cap for my NutriBullet for doing my smoothies in the morning, and it was leaking, and I thought, I can't afford to buy a whole new setup. They're about $250. It's ludicrous, and there's nothing wrong with the motor. And now I thought, wake up, girl. So I just have bought a new top with the blades in it. That's an unbudgeted amount. They come up. And then obviously if you have any sorts of loans, then you also have to include the minimum loan payment. Total them all up, give yourself an idea of where you are. Then on the next page, all of those variable transactions that I've just talked about, things like the rates, the car service, medical, other, anything like that where you're saving up a little bit or on a monthly basis that isn't a fixed amount. Now, some things are fixed, like for example, your mortgage or your rent will probably be a fixed amount. Probably your phone will be a fixed amount. Your internet might be a fixed amount. But lots of other things will be variable, like your groceries, and we're already tracking that over here. Electricity and gas, they will be variable. Or a car service, which is a funded amount, so you withdraw it from the amount you've got saved. This is where you track that. So, for example, already in my month, I've got unbudgeted, and I've got this blade for my NutriBullet that I've just bought and how much I spent on it. And it's just a way of tracking where all of your money is being spent on a daily basis. Now, for some of you, a page may be fine. Look, if you've got kids or major expenses, you may need 2 pages. There's a second page here that I can use for that. So that is something that you will find out as you go along. Remember, we're just getting started, and it's all about getting you in a place where you are comfortable and knowledgeable about your money, and you're also in the habit of recording where it's going. Where does it take its little self off to every month, and why you don't have any left over. Now, down here, as I said, I mentioned the minimum loan payments. In part 2, we're going to talk about how to tackle any debt that you have and how to manage that. So I will be doing that in the next video. I hope this has been helpful. I mean, I've been doing it this way for so long, and it really works well for me. It does even out the lumps and bumps. Some people will have different sorts of funded transactions. Other people will have fewer. But the point is to make it work for your individual situation and to take the shocks out of your budget, and also to see where you can, if you need to, where you can be saving some money. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I will see you to talk about paying off debt in the next video. So thank you so much for being with me, and I will see you soon. Bye.